I am big. I am so 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 big.
There's something in photography that almost nobody talks about, not in reviews, not in YouTube comparisons, not in those endless best camera in 2020X videos, and that is this. Sometimes it's not you. Sometimes the camera is working against you, and if you've ever felt like you can't get out of auto mode, like your shots are always slightly off, like you're reacting instead of controlling, then maybe, just maybe, you're not the problem. I'm not saying this as someone who just picked up a camera last year. I've been shooting Nikon since 2012. My first real camera was the D5100, and to this day I still stand by this. That camera had one of the most reliable, natural-feeling autofocus systems I've ever used. It wasn't perfect and it wasn't professional, but it worked with you. You pointed it at something, it locked on. You followed movement, it stayed with it. It felt predictable, and that matters more than specs. Years later, I upgraded. I wanted something better. So I got the D3300. On paper, it is better in some ways. 24 megapixels versus 16. No optical low-pass filter leads to sharper images. Newer X-Speed 4 processor. Better battery life. If you look at specs, it should be the better camera. But here's the part no one wants to say. It didn't feel better. It felt worse. And I don't mean a little different. I mean it felt like the camera was constantly fighting me. The autofocus didn't behave the same. The auto mode felt off, like it didn't read the scene the way I expected. Shots that should have worked didn't. And that messes with your head, because then you start thinking, am I doing something wrong? Did I forget how to shoot? Why can't I get the same results anymore? So I did what people tell you to do. Just shoot manual. Right? That's what everyone says. Manual equals control. Manual equals real photography. Manual equals skill. But here's the problem. No one explains. Manual only works if the camera lets you work fast enough. On the D3300, changing ISO is menu-based. That means you're out there, something happens, a bird takes off, a moment appears. And instead of reacting instantly, you're digging through menus. So what do? You preset your ISO. Then you try to compensate with aperture and shutter. But real life doesn't work like that. Light changes, subjects move. Moments happen once. You can't predict everything. And when you can't adjust fast enough, you miss the shot. And here's the dangerous part. When that keeps happening, people don't blame the camera, they blame themselves. I've seen it over and over. People stuck in auto mode for years. Not because they're lazy, not because they don't want to learn, but because their camera makes manual shooting slow, frustrating, and reactive instead of proactive. So they stay in auto, and then the internet tells them, just learn manual, like it's that simple. Then life happened. Photography took a back seat, and after my dad passed away, about a year later, I came back to it. And I didn't want to fight my gear anymore. I wanted something that worked with me again. So I made a choice. I stayed with DSLR. Not because mirrorless is bad, made to say, but because I tried it. A friend had a Canon R50, and to me, it felt laggy, battery was small, grip felt off. It didn't feel like a tool, it felt like something I had to think about. And I didn't want that. So I went with the Nikon D7500, one of the last real mid-range DSLRs Nikon made. And the difference, night and day, everything became fast again. ISO, button, shutter, dial, aperture, dial. No menus, no delays, no guessing, just see arrow react, arrow shoot. And that changed everything. I went full manual, and this time, it stuck. Not because I suddenly became better overnight, but because the camera finally let me keep up with reality. This is what people don't understand. Photography is not static. It's not a studio. It's not controlled. Especially not wildlife. You don't get time, you don't get second chances, you don't get perfect light. So if your camera forces you to preset everything, guess ahead of time, dig through menus, slow down your reaction, then you are not controlling the shot. You are reacting too late. And I think this is one of the reasons why so many people rely heavily on editing today, because if the capture isn't right, they fix it later. And I'm not talking about basic corrections. I'm talking about heavy cropping, artificial lighting, layered edits, rebuilding the image. At that point, you're not showing what was there. You're showing what you wish was there. And that's not what I want. I don't edit my photos anymore. Not because editing is evil, but because for me, it feels like manipulation. I want the image to stand on its own. I want people to see the real light, the real moment, the real limitations, the real gear. That's why I add metadata overlays: camera, lens, ISO, shutter, aperture, location. Because I believe this, as photographers, we owe people honesty. Not perfection, not illusion, honesty. And this ties back to the camera discussion, because if your camera is easy to control, you don't need to fake it later. You don't need to fix everything in post. You can get it right in the moment. That's why I don't understand the love for the D3000 series, especially the D3200 and D3300. I'm not saying they're bad cameras. They're not. They produce great images, but that's only half the story. Because a camera is not just about image quality, it's about how you interact with it. And for me, the D3300 didn't work with me. It worked against me. And that's something more people need to hear. If a camera makes you struggle, it doesn't mean you're bad. It might mean the camera isn't right for you. Because in the end, photography is not about specs. It's not about brands. It's not about what the internet says you should like. It's about this: can you see the moment and capture it without thinking? If yes, the camera is right. If not, something is in your way, and sometimes that something is the camera itself.